On the very same night, Jesus, along with Peter, James, and John, his disciples, went to the Garden of Gethsemane. In 1956, Franciscan archaeologist Virgilio Corbo found evidence that the site functioned as an agricultural facility used for the production of olive oil in the late Second Temple period. Jesus asked his disciples to be on guard while he was praying. "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me," he explained. Then, Jesus proceeded to walk a stone's throw away. He fell down on his face to the ground and said, "Father, if it's your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Then, an angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthening him, and being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. Then, his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. After he was done praying, Jesus came to his disciples and found them sleeping from sorrow. This piece of information is important in highlighting the distress the disciples were feeling at the moment. One of the reasons was being chased by the Pharisees who sought to kill Jesus, who was gaining more and more followers each day. Jesus said to Peter, "Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch an hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." After saying that, Jesus went away and prayed the same words again. However, when he returned to his disciples again, he found them sleeping. However, this time, Jesus did not bother them and went back praying for the third time, saying the same words. Finally, Jesus came to his disciples, woke them up and said, "Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." While Jesus was saying this, Judas, one of his disciples who knew about the garden because Jesus often meet there with his disciples, came with troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees carrying lanterns, torches, and weapons. Before arriving, Judas had given them a sign, saying, "Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him." With this sign, Judas immediately went up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. But Jesus, knowing all this, said to him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Jesus also said to the multitudes, "Whom are you seeking?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he. Therefore, if you seek me, let my disciples go their way," fulfilling the saying which he spoke, "Of those whom you gave I have lost none." However, Simon Peter, who carried a sword, sensing the danger they were in, decided to strike the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus, but Jesus touched his ear and healed him. All the four Gospels mention this rash action done by Peter, but only the Gospel of John mentioned Peter's name, while others hid his identity. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must happen thus?" Jesus also said this to the multitudes, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I sat daily with you, teaching in the temple, and you did not seize me. But all this was done so that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then the troops and the captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him, and all the disciples left him. After arresting Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, they brought him to Annas first for a preliminary investigation. Annas was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Though he was no longer in the office since AD 15, Annas still held a considerable amount of power many years after, even during John the Baptist and Jesus' public ministries. During the investigation, Jesus said, "I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where the Jews always meet, and in secret I have said nothing. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me and what I said to them. Indeed, they know what I said." And when he had said these things, one of the officers who stood by struck Jesus with the palm of his hand, saying, "Do you answer the high priest like that?" Jesus answered him, "If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why do you strike me?" When Annas had finished questioning Jesus, he sent him to Caiaphas, his son-in-law, who succeeded him in the office of high priest. And Peter, one of Jesus' followers, followed him at a distance. Now the chief priests, the elders, and all the council sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. The high priest said to him, "I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "It is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothes, a traditional Jewish gesture to express grief, dismay, or abhorrence at what was considered a sacrilegious statement, saying, "He has spoken blasphemy. What further need do we have of witnesses? Look now, you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think?" They answered and said, "He is deserving of death." Now the men who held Jesus mocked him and beat him, and having blindfolded him, they struck him on the face and asked him, saying, "Prophesy, who is the one who struck you?" And many other things they blasphemously spoke against him. While the commotion was happening, Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, followed him at a distance to the high priest's courtyard. Traditionally situated on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, the courtyard is located within the house of the high priest. There, Peter went in and sat with the servants to see the end, while staying low so no one could recognize it. Now Peter sat outside in the courtyard, and the servant girl came to him saying, "You also were with Jesus of Galilee." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." And when he had gone out to the gateway, another girl saw him and said to those who were there, "This fellow also was with Jesus of Nazareth." And the servant girl saw him again and began to say to those who stood by, "This is one of them." But Peter consistently denied everybody out of fear. A little later, those who stood by said to Peter again, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean, and your speech shows it." Yes, Peter was a Galilean, a region in northern Israel known for its distinct dialect, making Galileans easily identifiable. It is where Jesus and many of his disciples, including Peter, originated. Hearing their correct accusation, Peter began cursing and swearing, saying, "I don't know the man." Immediately, a rooster crowed. When Peter heard the rooster crow, he remembered what happened just the night before.
"Do not know this man of whom you speak."
I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me.
And when he remembered about it, he ran out and wept bitterly. When morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people plotted against Jesus to put him to death. They asked Jesus, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But Jesus refused to answer because he knew they would not believe him. Then they all said, "Are you then the Son of God?" So Jesus said to them, "You rightly say that I am." Hearing that, they ended the investigation, and they bound Jesus, led him away, and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the fifth governor of the Roman province of Judea, serving under Emperor Tiberius from 26 or 27 to 36 or 37 AD. They handed Jesus to Pilate because they did not have the authority to put him to death. Judas, who observed the whole thing that was happening to Jesus, was shocked that he had been condemned. Judas felt so guilty that he brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." But the chief priests did not care and told him that that's none of their business. Spurgeon said, "Perhaps Judas expected that Jesus would miraculously deliver himself from his captors, and when he saw that he was condemned, remorse seized him, and he carried back to his fellow criminals the reward of his infamy." Jesus then threw the silver coins he received in the temple. It was his way of saying, "You also are guilty of this." Later on, the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, "It is not lawful to put them into the treasury because they are the price of blood." After some considerations, they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field, to bury people who were not Jews. And until this gospel was written, the field has been called the field of blood. Judas, after throwing the coins in the temple, consumed with guilt, went away to end his life on a tree. Since it happened during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, no Jew would want to defile himself by burying the corpse, because for them, a corpse is unclean, and touching it will make oneself unclean. Being left in the open for days under a hot sun resulted in Judas's body decomposing rapidly, and it fell to the ground and burst open. Pontius Pilate, the fifth governor of the Roman province of Judea, served under Emperor Tiberius. He is known in history as the one who decided the execution of Jesus of Nazareth. This is the story of his involvement in one of the greatest events in history, the crucifixion of Jesus. As the governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate lived in a beautiful palace that was formerly used by Herod the Great, aka the one who tried to kill Jesus when he was still a baby. The people brought Jesus to Pilate because they did not have the authority to execute someone, and they needed Pilate to say yes in their pursuit of killing Jesus. Interestingly, the Bible states that the Jews refused to go inside Pilate's residence because they did not want to be defiled. One of the reasons is because there were statues of pagan gods, which were considered unclean in the eyes of the Jews. So they took Jesus to a platform outside of Pilate's residence, still connected to his home. As the governor, Pilate would come out from his gate to attend the trial. This was Jesus' fourth trial, and even Pilate was confused as to why the Pharisees were so eager to kill him. So Pilate took Jesus inside his residence and questioned him separately. Here, Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate therefore said to him, "Are you a king then?" Jesus answered, "You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." Hearing Jesus' answers, Pilate found him innocent, which infuriated the people. Upon learning that Jesus was from Galilee, which still fell under Herod Antipas, the son of Herod the Great's territory, Pilate sent Jesus to be questioned by Herod, who at the time was also in Jerusalem. Weak and indecisive ruler. That's how the New Testament paints Pontius Pilate. Someone who didn't have the backbone to stand up to the crowd. Instead of making a firm decision, he passed Jesus off to Herod Antipas, hoping to wash his hands off the whole situation. Now Herod, on the other hand, was excited to see Jesus, not because he believed in him, but because he had heard all these wild stories about miracles and wanted a front row seat. He basically treated Jesus like a magician at a royal party. But Jesus didn't play along. He stayed completely silent, didn't answer a single question. And that silence, it only made things worse. The chief priests and scribes jumped on it, hurling accusation after accusation, trying to twist the moment to their advantage. Then Herod, completely unimpressed by Jesus' silence, turned cruel. Along with his soldiers, he mocked and ridiculed him. They dressed Jesus up in an elegant, almost sarcastically royal robe, like they were putting on a show, and sent him back to Pilate. The strange part is, that day, Pilate and Herod, who had never gotten along before, suddenly became friends. It's like their shared involvement in this one moment, this one decision, brought them together. After sending Jesus back to Pilate, Pilate's wife came to him and told him that he should have nothing to do with Jesus because he is an innocent man, and that she suffered many things in a dream because of Jesus. Pilate then called the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and he said to them, "I found no fault in this man concerning those things of which you accuse him, neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I will therefore chastise him and release him." There are two men named Jesus standing in front of the crowd. One claimed to be the Son of God, the other one was a notorious bandit. The two Jesus were standing in front of the Jews, who would decide which one to set free. As you might have guessed, the Jews chose to release the bandit Jesus and crucify the other one. At that time, it was a common Passover tradition in Jerusalem for Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, to pardon one prisoner and cancel their death sentence based on the people's choice. Although Pilate did not find any fault in Jesus of Nazareth and wanted to release him, upon protest from the Jews, he decided to bring out a prisoner and ask the Jews to choose whom they want to release. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should pardon Jesus Barabbas and destroy Jesus of Nazareth. The governor answered and said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" They said, "Barabbas." Pilate asked them again, "What then do you want me to do with Jesus?" They cried out demanding Jesus to be crucified. It was obvious Pilate disagreed with them, asking them what kind of things Jesus had done that he deserved such cruel punishment. But they ignored his question and screamed even louder, demanding Jesus to be crucified. Right then, the bandit was set free, and the Son of God was sentenced to face the cruelest and most disgraceful punishment in ancient Rome. What actually happened after Jesus was sentenced to be crucified? Did they immediately crucify him? Well, actually no. Once Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, saw that his attempt to convince the crowd of Jesus' innocence had failed, he washed his hands before the people, symbolically declaring that he had nothing to do with Jesus' blood. After giving the order to crucify Jesus, the soldiers of the governor took Jesus to the Praetorium, which is the tent of a general within the Roman castrum, and gathered the whole garrison around him. There, Pilate took Jesus and scourged him. After they deemed the scourging was enough, the soldiers then clothed him with purple robe, and they twisted a crown of thorns, put it on his head, and mockingly saluted him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" After that, they struck Jesus on the head with a reed and spat on him. Then, kneeling before him in mock worship, they made a spectacle of the whole situation. When they had finally tired of the mockery, they stripped off the purple robe, dressed Jesus in his own clothes, and led him away to be crucified. The soldiers gave Jesus the cross and forced him to carry it himself all the way to Golgotha, a Hebrew name place meaning the place of the skull. Are you familiar with the Latin word Via Dolorosa? Via Dolorosa is a Latin phrase meaning way of suffering. This is a path in ancient Jerusalem believed to be the route Jesus took while carrying his cross to his crucifixion place. After Pontius Pilate decided to crucify Jesus, his soldiers took over, made fun of him, tortured him, and forced him to carry his own cross all the way to Golgotha. Just like how movie adaptations pictured it, Jesus was bleeding and could barely walk due to the previous torture done by the Roman soldiers. The Via Dolorosa is not one street, but a route consisting of segments of several streets. The first reports of a pilgrimage route corresponding to the biblical events also from the Byzantine era around 55 AD. Currently, there are 14 stations in the Via Dolorosa where people around the world could come to experience the journey Jesus took to his crucifixion place, Golgotha, the place of a skull. These stations are: Jesus is condemned to death, Jesus is given his cross, Jesus falls the first time, Jesus meets his mother, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus, Jesus falls the second time, Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem, Jesus falls the third time, Jesus is stripped of his garment, Jesus is nailed to the cross, Jesus dies on the cross, Jesus is taken down from the cross, Jesus is laid in the tomb.